And the months of craziness when it comes to wrestling pay-per-views finally comes to a stop. For at least a few weeks, then the end of September, we kick it off again, and we know that we are going to get Full Gear in November. I think it was November. Sometimes I forget these things. But for now, we have to talk about AEW All Out, which really was a very, very interesting show. It was a little bit like a roller coaster. You know, when you get on a roller coaster, you're really excited, then you go up, you're like, wah-ha-ha. Then it goes down, you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It was kind of like that, and it was nobody's fault, but it was just a strange tamale. But my name is Simon from Whatculture Wrestling. Thank you very much for joining me for yet another edition of Ups and Downs. And of course, we are indeed going to talk about All Elite Wrestling's All Out pay-per-view. And good grief, sit yourself down, get a banana, because that's like healthy and nutritious, because we got a lot to get into. Let's up those downs. All Out's pre-show, also known as the buy-in, was fun enough. We were getting Joey Janela versus Serpentico, and that came out of nowhere. But we also got Private Party taking on Alex Ryan Reynolds and the pirate known as Long John Silver. Janela versus the fake Sammy Guevara was fine, and Joey got the win after he hit the elbow off the top rope. But it was this tag team match that I really enjoyed because the Hollywood actor and the pirate, they're just so good, and I think they're underrated. And Private Party, they also kicked the ass, but I kind of feel like we give them all the love, so right now, I want to give it to the other guys. Unfortunately, they did lose after the gin and juice, and my major worry was, oh no, what if Silver goes back to his ship and there's some kind of mutiny from his crew? I know I'm an idiot. All Out then started properly, and somewhat surprisingly, we did have the Britt Baker versus Big Swole Tooth and Nails match, whatever the hell it was called. And I was a bit like, this isn't the way usually we start an All Elite Wrestling show. Like, their whole thing is, here's a match that's going to go at 75,000 miles an hour, and you're going to be sitting there going, because you just can't handle it. The adrenaline is too much. And it was certainly okay, and after Big Swole had busted into Baker's dental surgery, before Britt just appeared in the shadows like she was in some kind of survival horror, I was enjoying it. But look, I gotta be honest, I gotta be transparent with you, it just didn't really click. That's wrong, I should be missing. You know, it's like almost there. It just felt a bit off. And there were some funny bits when Baker kept using all her dental tools, including some Novocaine, but can you believe it? That actually went into her leg, which didn't help her at all. And then eventually Swole got like the anesthesia mask. She put it on Britt, and that's how she lost. She passed out because of gas. She also had a diploma smashed over her head at one point, and I appreciated the effort and I appreciated the idea, but for me personally, as a bald asshole and a wrestling fan, well, it didn't tick my box. This placement then got even odder because the second match was the Jurassic Express taking on the Young Bucks, which you could have just put first, and then you could have put Swole and Baker second, and I think this would have made the whole thing better. And I know, what the hell do I know? I'm just some idiot ranting and raving on the internet. If I booked a wrestling show, it would probably just set on fire. Still though, this was great up. It was just craziness, to be honest. What I absolutely love about Matt and Nick Jackson matches right now is that they're going through this character transformation in a would-be heel turn, I suppose, and they're just so mad and they're just so upset. Now, thankfully, they're not as mad and upset as they were on Dynamite because they did their pose here, but I'm very worried about them. But that was not the case in the ring because Matt and Nick now are just so damn aggressive and they're so damn violent. That was especially worrying here because do not forget, they are taking on a boy from a jungle and a dinosaur. I think we should be treating these incredible discoveries with more respect. It started great with Matt and Jungle Boy having this back and forth, and when Jungle Jack went to shake Matt Jackson's hand, he just slapped it out of the way because once again he's having some kind of mental breakdown, and by the time Luchasaurus got in there, he was like, I'm not dealing with your crap, Matt Jackson, and he just whipped everybody's ass. As he was doing this as well, JR made sure to tell us that he thinks Marco Stunt is like a piece of trash. I was like, why do we all hate Marco Stunt all of a sudden? That made no sense. And of course, if you've watched Ups and Downs before, you know what we have to talk about now because it was a tag team match in AEW. So at this juncture, everybody in the match, not you and I, but in the match heard the klaxon, which stands for everybody get in the ring and hit your big moves. And that's what these four did. Given that this ended when Luchasaurus had chucked Nick Jackson over the barricade and then just dove onto everybody, well, I don't have a problem with it. This guy is a dinosaur. Did you ever see a T-Rex do that? One, you didn't, because you're not 65 million years old, and I've watched all the Jurassic Park movies, and at not one point have I seen it. Therefore, didn't happen. Luchasaurus is amazing. Ultimately, though, this whole thing was to underline the fact that the Young Bucks are transforming into something. I mean, maybe it's more serious people, maybe it's straight up evil people, we don't know, but they hit the BTE trigger on Jungle Boy, and he took the fall. The Young Bucks win. Now, it's a little bit like, Jungle Boy seems to be losing a lot of matches recently, but I think that AEW has something huge planned for him down the line, so I'm going to sit and be patient, unlike many wrestling fans who just going crazy all the time. Either way, it was everything you would have wanted and expected from an AEW tag team match. And trust you me, we are not done. Our big casino battle royal was next, and I tell you, expectations were through the roof because before this, Tony Khan had said, hey, we're going to have a wild card entry. And more fool me, I just decided it was Rusev. There was no tease, it was going to be Rusev or Miro, as his real name is. I just can't help myself, I love that man, and I'm desperate to see him in AEW, so more for me. In fact, you know what? Serves me right. This was also a little different from your traditional matchup because 4 groups of 5 people would come in at timed intervals. And I can't remember every single person because there was a lot, so I'm just going to read them to you. So yes, we had Trent, Christopher Daniels, Jake Hagar, The Blade, and Phoenix in round 1. Kazarian, Will Hobbs, Chuck Taylor, Santana, and Ortiz in round 2. So what shenanigans are going on there? Billy Gunn, Pentagon, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, and Darby Allin in round 3. With Sean Spears, Eddie Kingston, The Butcher, Sonny Kiss, and Lance Archer coming in last. And the surprise was held off for its own little, what's going to happen, which I thought was nice. And it was Matt Sydal. And I get that some people were disappointed with this, but that all depends on who you are. If you're a massive Matt Sydal fan, you would have been going crazy. But unfortunately, for Matthew, when he went to do his shooting star press, which I think to date he must have done 78,457 times, he slipped and he fell right on his ass. Not gonna lie, I felt so sorry for this guy. 2020 Shockmaster. Although fair play to him, he went on Twitter and took the mick out of himself. That was the right thing to do. Who cares? There was also some story stuff here in the sense that Brian Cage accidentally whammed his partner Ricky Starks and that allowed Darby Allin to get Starks out of the ring, so therefore that story has to continue. And then, for some reason, even though there was around about 90 people in a battle royal, Brian Cage got the body bag that Darby Allin is obsessed with. He put Darby in it as well as a bunch of thumbtacks and threw him over the top rope in this bag. This is how I watched it. I never want to see it again. I can't believe we did it. How Darby Allin is still alive, I don't know. In fact, if I could, I'd Rey Mysterio myself and I'd rip out my own eye. That way I could only see it with one. Anyway, all you really need to know is that the final 4 were Matt Sydal, The Butcher, Lance Archer, and Eddie Kingston, and we got down to Archer versus Kingston, where, of course, Lance Archer was able to hurl Eddie Kingston off the top rope, and he is not only your Casino Battle Royal winner, but now, well, I guess not necessarily the #1 contender for the AEW World title, but he's earned himself a shot. And that's the right decision, I think, because Lance Archer hasn't really been a permanent fixture on Dynamite for a while. I mean, when he has been there, he's been throwing people into ceilings or spray painting Jake Roberts' back, and he was here too, threatening everybody with his snake, which is a perfectly normal thing to do. And I'm kind of worried that he goes after another championship and fails, but I just like him so damn much. He's so damn believable because he's a big old hoss. And yeah, it was a bit all over the place, but I thought it was enjoyable. And for some reason, I had this moment where I was like, you know what? If I was a kid watching this, I'd be losing my damn mind. It was like watching superheroes have a massive brawl. I'm giving it up. We then had the saddest part of the entire evening, and I won't lie, it kind of took me out of the whole event because I just think we made a mistake. I get why these things happen, but Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara in a broken rules match, well, again, given what did go down, is getting a down. And the reason for that is simple. At one point, Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara were going to do this crazy spot where they're on like some kind of stair lift and they fell off and crashed through a table, but Matt Hardy smacked his head on the concrete floor. Now, there was a second where I thought this was a little bit of a work because Aubrey Edwards was doing the X, but, you know, Hardy was stirring. But then as soon as he was on his feet, honestly, it was one of the hardest things I have seen in wrestling all year. He was stumbling about the place. He clearly didn't have his wits about him. And thankfully, at this stage, AEW called the match off. And I was like, yeah, good. Has it broken my immersion? Yes. Is it a massive shame? Yes. But am I more concerned about a human being's health? You bet your ass yes. We'd even heard the ring bell, but then for some reason, the match started again. As it turned out later, it was because Matt Hardy had told everyone he was okay, but surely anybody could have looked at him and gone, that man is not okay. And I do understand. like I say, I'm a professional wrestler, and I'm in, no way the same level as these guys, but I smashed my shoulder up really bad in a wrestling match. I broke my collarbone, and I separated all these muscles, blah, 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 blah. And even I tried to carry on. So I understand this ideology, and I understand this thinking, but really, we should have just cancelled it and moved on. That's the great thing about professional wrestling. It's not actually real, so you can protect the people in it. Now, it didn't go very long after this. Like Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy climbed up this scaffolding type thing, and Sammy Guevara took a crazy bump like he was Shane McMahon through some wooded area, but it was so hard to get into. I'm just so worried about Matt Hardy because clearly I think I'm his dad. Once more, I can understand that it's hard to make these decisions on the fly. Nobody thought this was coming, but it wasn't fun to watch. And really, why do we watch wrestling? To be entertained, to have a bit of joy in our lives. This was not it. So look, I get it, I understand. I want to say that over and over again, just so people get it from my point of view. But it was horrible, it was awful. I always want people to be happy and filled with peaches and cream. This was not it. All my positive thoughts and love to one Matthew Hardy. Good dude, and he rocks. Thankfully, Shida and Thunder Rosa then took all the criticism that had been hurled at the women's division, and sure, some of them have been fair, but they thrust them back out into the universe and had a really damn good professional wrestling match. It started with both of them just punching each other in the face, which you would do if you were in a fight, when both remembered, oh wait a minute, we have knees. But that wasn't enough for either lady because they got a chair and their plan was, well, I'm going to jump off the chair and I'm going to wham the hardest part of my leg into my opponent's face. She'd tried to do this, she failed, so Thunder Rosa went, well, now you've given me a great idea, and she cracked her skull. Rosa was going to DVD Shida on the stage at one point, but surprisingly the champion was like, no, I'm not up for that. So then she tried to superplex her in the same place, and do you know how this spot ended? With Thunder Rosa giving her that DVD on the apron instead. When I went to do some research on the internet, that's the hardest part of the ring. There was also a count-out tease after that to make you go, oh no, what's gonna happen? But thankfully, Shida was able to get back into the squared circle. She finally did hit the running knee. She pinned Thunder Rosa to retain her championship. And look, AEW, if you want to wind this back and do it again, I'm not going to moan. I'm not going to complain. Easily, I think, I'm probably wrong, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. The best women's match I've seen on All Elite Wrestling, and I love both of these wrestlers. I think they are fabu. I can then only assume that I fell asleep, somebody snuck into my room and injected me with a hallucinogen, because when I woke back up, Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford were being interviewed, and they told us that they were getting married, so that relationship's gone really well, and that on Dynamite, we're not only going to have the bachelor party, but Kip Sabian is going to pick his best man. Like it's an episode of NXT before it's NXT. If you know, you know. I was genuinely baffled by this because it just came out of nowhere. Now, I actually like these two together, and I think they have a lot of fun with it, but in terms of a segment on a pay-per-view, I was just like, what? Did I miss something? I don't even know. The Natural Nightmares, Matt Cardona and Scorpio Sky then beat the Dark Order. And if you're wondering why I just threw it out there like that, it's because it kind of came across like something you'd see on Dynamite and not really sort of the high, crazy pay-per-view stuff we're used from AEW. But it was still good, it was still fine, and the story at the end, I actually thought kicked ass up. The Dark Order are assholes, so they attacked all the good guys during their entrance, and eventually it was QT Marshall who was just being beaten down. But then Matt Cardona got a hot tag and Scorpio Sky, and I want to make it very clear, these two are really, really good guys that you can get behind. There's just something about them I'm a big fan, especially of Scorpio Sky. Push him to the moon. In fact, put him on the moon and let him win the moon title. What? There was also some shenanigans because Anna Jay was getting involved, so Brandy Rose booted her in the face to get some kind of revenge for her husband, and then Brody Lee hit a discus lariat that was so hard I thought Dustin was dead. I really, really did. However, Brody then tagged in Colt Cabana because of course he wants to make him feel good and he wants to make him feel happy. Colt went for the moonsault. He lost, allowing Dustin and his 30 years of experience to use the most devastating move in all of sportstainment, the surprise roll-up, and he got the win, even though, like I say, the lead of the Dark Order had this sewn up. Ruh-roh. Don't come at me either and say, Simon, where's the roll-up counter for AEW? Because it's not the same. They barely ever do this, but I promise if they do, I shall hold them to task. And what I'm massively excited about is I actually think we're going to build now to Brody Lee versus Colt Cabana, maybe for the TNT title, because afterwards Lee was not happy at all. He went crazy. He pushed Colt, and obviously Colt's not used to this. To this point, he has been the favored son. He has been protected from the madness, but Lee couldn't contain himself, and now something is a-brewing. Dustin Rhodes also cut my favourite promo of the year afterwards because he was just so pumped up that he had won after a surprise roll-up, and then he was told live on air, oh, we've just heard from Tony Khan, you will challenge for the TNT Championship on Wednesday when you can finally get more revenge for your brother. And honestly, you think he had just been told he won the lottery, he almost broke down. I really like Dustin Rhodes. Right, okay, I just want to make something clear. I keep hearing people going, there's too many tag team matches in AEW, and you need to get a zipper and put it across your lips. Because look, I'm fine with WWE focusing on singles matches and singles pushes and having a little bit of tag teams, but I would love it if they would do more. AEW is drowning in this stuff. Their division is really, really strong, and they have the best stories. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page defending their titles against FTR, I'm giving it up. Kenny Omega is just such a good wrestler too. I mean, everybody here kicked absolute ass, but with Kenny, it's like at night time and you look out on the sky and you see a star, and you're just like, wow, there it is. That's how I feel about Kenny Omega. And I can kind of understand why some people didn't like this as well, because usually when you see an AEW tag team match, it's all go, 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 non-stop, non-stop. But this was an old school one where we really focused on the narrative, and that just made me feel all happy, and it filled up my happy glands. Because the best thing was, there was this idea hanging over the whole thing that you didn't really know who to trust. Was Kenny Omega going to lose it? Was Hangman Page going to lose it? And were Cash and Dax going to be able to take advantage of it? Well, the answer was kinda. Unfortunately, this all went sour when Kenny Omega, who had had his leg worked over for the entire time and was really struggling, went for the V-trigger, and a lot like that guy from Ace Ventura, laces out, missed entirely and hit his own partner, Hangman Page. FDR jumped on this as if it was like, I don't know, cheesecake at a party, and they hit him with a spike pile driver. So you're like, oh my gosh, that's it, we're gonna have new champions. But the damn cowboy kicked out like 2.99999. It sent me wild. I didn't see it coming. So in that sense, it was a lot like my male pattern baldness. And like good wrestlers, they just went and hit their move again, as you should do. But as Kenny Omega was on the apron desperately trying to help, he got knocked off. FTR did get the pin. They are your new champions. And we managed to continue the story on at the same time. And obviously they celebrated with stupid Tully Blanchard afterwards, and they were drinking beer. Poor Hangman was on the floor. It was really upsetting. Omega was so mad about this though. He went and got like the ringside table, which was kind of funny. It looked like something you used to have when you were on school. And when he turned to Hangman, he was like, that's it, I'm done, it's over. And he was gonna smash him with it, but he changed his mind. Mostly because poor Adam just collapsed at the guy's feet. And I guess he thought, you know, you're not worth it. Although I do think you're a piece of trash. He wasn't even done, because he then stormed backstage when he bumped into the Young Bucks, and he was all like, look, we're getting in this car, we're leaving, I'm done with all of this. Are you with me or against me? And while Matt and Nick decided not to go in there, there's this idea that everybody is falling apart and somebody is about to go truly crazy. I mean, surely it has to be Kenny Omega, and he has to go back to being the cleaner, but I honestly love all of this. It makes you want to tune into Dynamite. I think we should pull the trigger soon, because I'm just so excited. I want Moxley versus Omega, and I want it soon. And then decided this was one of the weirdest AEW pay-per-views we've had for some time, because along with the Tooth and Nails match and then the Matt Hardy stuff, we were getting the Mayhem Mimosa thingamajig, and I was like, why don't we just have pools of orange water by ringside? But fair play to Orange Cassidy, fair play to Chris Jericho. This was just, well, it was just easy to watch. It really, really was up. I don't really know what to tell you, to be honest. Jericho was bleeding at one point, which was a nice nod back to everything that happened on Dynamite between him and Joey Janela. And basically both guys just played tightrope around these pools. It's like, oh, is he going to go in? No. Oh, is he going to go in? No. At one point, Chris's leg went in there. So I suppose that's not part of the rules. You have to be utterly submerged. But it didn't last long, because eventually he got utterly submerged. Because after some brawling, Orange Cassidy hit with a big punch and in went Le Champion. And I actually just think this was the best way to do it. Because Chris Jericho can come out and Dynamite, so I didn't pin, I didn't get submitted, I just got thrown into a vat of alcohol. And Orange Cassidy can go around saying, excuse me, I had 3 matches against the legend that is Chris Jericho, and I'm 2-1 up. That, to me, just makes all the sense in the world. I also think all of this has really done a good job in putting Orange Cassidy on the map. But yeah, in terms of what this was, you're probably never going to watch it again, but it was alright, it was okay. I had a jolly good time. And Chris Jericho probably woke up this morning being all sticky. He'll probably still be sticky on Wednesday. Remember his jacket? He never washes. He just turns up into TV the same state he was in. It was then time for our main event, and I was truly pumped because I just didn't know what AEW was going to do. I was a little bit more confident it was going to be Jon Moxley because Lance Archer had won that Battle Royal, and you ain't gonna do Lance versus MJF, but it wasn't enough to make me 100% confident. Although Jon Moxley did retain, this is good enough. I love this though, because I think not only did it make MJF look like a bigger star than he already was, but the finish just tied in to the Jon Moxley character. Once again, I've seen some people going, well, that's not what a babyface should have done. Is Jon Moxley a traditional babyface? I don't think he is. In fact, every time he cuts a promo, he's like, I'm gonna murder everyone. He's like a variation of Lance Archer, which is kind of worrying because those two guys are about to fight. MJF also bled like a stuffed pig during this, which was quite the sight to behold. And yeah, what happened in the end all came down to that idiot known as Wardlow, because despite not really doing anything in this match up to this point, he took the referee so he could slide the diamond ring to MJF. MJF was very excited about this, as you could expect, but John looked around, he surveyed the situation, he's like, all right, if the official's not watching, I'm going to use the paradigm shift, which of course was banned. He did, ref turned around, and he pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. Moxley is also a wonderful good guy, because he then turned to the camera and just shrugged like the emoji, and I actually said out loud, damn it, I love you more than your wife, Renee Young. I didn't say that, that's a terrible joke and I regret it, retract. It also sends a very good message to Maxwell in the sense that you shouldn't cheat because maybe you shall be chat. That's not a phrase or a word or a sentence, I just made it up. And also, once again, and AEW does this well all the time, we have already got feuds coming out the other end. We're gonna have Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer, but surely now Wardlow and MJF are about to implode. And I've been waiting for that since they teased it around about 72 years ago. That works for me. I thought it was really smart, and this match overall was brutal, it was hard-hitting, and I think it proved that yes, MJF is going to be a future main event player. So what is there to get mad about? Also, go and look at the ratings. I know we shouldn't talk about ratings, but when Jon Moxley is on the screen as the champion, everybody tunes in. Sometimes you gotta do what's right for business. I say, well done. With that said though, yes, this was a very strange AEW pay-per-view to the point in some stages it actually felt like a different promotion. I don't want to stand here and go, it's the worst one they've ever done, because they're not negative Nancy's, we're positive Pete's, and I did walk away feeling like it was worth my money, but yeah, it was a little bit hit and miss. Not everything was a home run. Still feel very sorry for Matt Sydal, but overall, it's getting an up, but it's a less of a strong up than usual. So there you go. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's pay-per-view. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling. Head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture and WhatCulture WWE on that there Twitter, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you again for joining me for another week of ups and downs, and we'll be back Tuesday, I believe. And it's time to get into that craziness known as Monday Night Raw.